All right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rich Swerbinski with the Mortgage Collaborative. Want to thank you for spending a little time with us this afternoon for a presentation on effectively managing remote employees. And I am pleased to be joined today by a loyal TMC member and friend, Mike Metz of VIP Mortgage out of Scottsdale, Arizona. Mike, thanks for
How
joining
you
us.
doing, everybody? Very welcome. Thanks for having me.
Right. So just very quickly before we go ahead and get started, just a couple of ground rules. We have muted everybody's mics just to eliminate background noise, but desire interactivity. So any questions, comments, feedback anybody has, please feel free to voice that either electronically via the chat or Q&A functions, or you can also hit the raise your hand button and we can unmute your mic. And then also, we will distribute a copy of this recording as well as this deck to all registered attendees upon completion. I know a lot of our members have taken this and socialized it with other managers at their staff, and that is clearly the goal. So this is part of the TMC Connect platform, where we host a number of virtual interactive learning and networking sessions on all the topics most relevant to our lender members. Content is completely fueled by our members. We also have an electronic networking platform at ask-tmc.com. It's a lender member protected and only message board forum where members can bounce questions, ideas, strategies off one another. We also have groups on LinkedIn and Facebook that do the same. And then our data benchmarking tool, TMC Benchmark, which is a monthly data benchmarking tool. It's part of membership that our members use to gauge their performance on a monthly basis against our entire network and their peer group within it. All right, as mentioned previously, Mike Metz, VP Operations for VIP Mortgage, who has been managing remote staff for quite some time there. Myself, our team at TMC, we have been all remote since day one with this organization. And, like many of you on the call, we were trying to figure it out at the beginning and developed a nice little system that really makes our staff far more productive than they otherwise would be, I believe, if working in a traditional office setting. These are some of the things we're going to go over today that you see on the slide. Some of the challenges unique to the current climate, the importance of individualizing your staff without micromanaging them, communication and community, using monitoring and data benchmarking to help aid your management efforts of remote employees, knowing your people, and then some resourceful links that we put together that other members have sent us as well. Okay. So the challenges of the current climate, obviously, almost every mortgage lender in America was forced to move the bulk, if not all of their staff remote about 6 weeks ago. I would say in our network, on average, the average remoteness of a TMC lender member, just based on surveys and sessions we've done, was probably 15-20%, typically just underwriters, but now it's everybody. Mike, tell us a little bit at VIP Mortgage about your staff. How many were remote prior to 6 weeks ago, and how many are remote now?
Yeah, so we have been lucky enough that we've had a pretty tech-savvy company and COO and CEO on our side. So we had started over a decade ago, even with people working remotely, particularly like our processors and underwriters. And we had some of the other core groups such as shippers and IT working from the corporate location. But then over time, we started to allow everyone who's even within the main groups, the corporate branches, to start having kind of a staggered schedule for working from the office and work from home, kind of a combination of both, so they get some of the culture of working here, but some of the convenience of working from home. And post-corona, we have a few of us, including my dog, here at the corporate office, and then everyone else at home.
employees out, dog in. So
He's
um,
okay with it.
and yeah, and then also right now, if it's pets or children or significant others, um, you know, most of us have other people in the house, which makes it even a little more challenging. We have a lot of staff with multiple young children that they're trying to help with their homeschooling in between work stuff. So that in and of itself has been a challenge as well. So we'll get a little bit more into that as we get a little deeper into the presentation. Some other things that are a challenge, this has gotten a little better, just the Wi-Fi connection speeds. When all of America went remote 6 weeks ago, that was a big issue. Still an issue to some. We've got a link later in this presentation to a column that is really good. It's like the 10 things to do at home to make your Wi-Fi connection as speedy as possible. And then one thing that a lot of companies are starting to figure out right now is just the cybersecurity component and tentacles of having all remote staff. It amplifies the risk in certain areas. And Mike, why don't you talk a little bit about some things you guys do at VIP to help mitigate that risk with having a lot of remote employees?
There's some of it that's going to be kind of a software solution that we would suggest for people, whether that is using vendors for email management. So we use Mimecast on our side. There's also various programs and companies you can work with. KnowBe4 is a good one that helps in doing cybersecurity training for your people. Knowing they'll even do fake phishing attacks, which is nice, and then let you know who succeeded versus who failed, which can make for some entertaining conversations. And it's something to be very aware of because we're seeing more and more of it even at title companies. We saw someone at the builder who had their wire go missing because they had been impacted. So with everyone working from home, the not so good people are finding ways to take advantage of that. So it's just important to remind people, leave your work computer for work purposes, go surfing random YouTube and websites on your personal computer.
Thanks, Mike. And then kind of same church, different pew, having a work from home policy is something we really encourage for our members. Maybe not even maybe partially for protection in some areas, but more for education, making staff understand, some of the things that are important for work from home employees. We've had a few different members that have submitted their work from home policies to us. And what we'll do is we put together kind of like one that was like a combination of different components that were in some of the work from home policies members submitted. It's good. It's like a page and a half, 2 pages. It's not some intense legal document, but we'll forward that out to everybody with the recording and a copy of this presentation. So, all right. This, I really believe, is the biggest key to effectively managing remote employees, individualizing and not micromanaging. At our winter conference in New Orleans, just before all hell broke loose in mid-February, we did an in-person session on effectively managing remote employees, and it was really well attended, 75, 80 people in the room, and it was really interactive. And this was definitely, I think, the number one challenge of our members in that room, just talking about the struggle that they have, just being honest with, the loss of control, not having your employees in front of you, and just talking through some mistakes and things they'd like to do over, kind of as it relates to micromanaging. Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about just the importance of individualization and, treating different types of people a little bit differently when they're in a remote setting?
If you guys ever wondered which of your employees are introverts versus extroverts, you will probably know very well by now. And it's important to keep in mind, it's something that we've been playing with, like I said, for years on our side. You'll quickly figure out that there are some people who can work from home, and not only are they okay, they're happier. They don't want to see the rest of the world. They just want to do their stuff. And then there's some people who by now are probably ready for a divorce, childless home, and are desperate for human contact. And it's just good to keep in mind that every different person is going to want different levels of reaching out, talking to them, whether it's emails. I suggest varying it up and doing phone calls, doing Zoom conference calls, even happy hours, just to get people who need those kind of more interaction, that opportunity to do that and stay somewhat sane.
Thanks, Mike. And then, kind of moving on to not micromanaging. And I think the headline kind of says it well there: stay focused on goals, not activity. And I think this was one of the things just with our staff over the years that, we've had challenges with, just being honest, like, especially in our earlier days, we were very short staffed, and, there was a lot to be done as we were kind of growing TMC. And what I started to realize was that, like assigning deadlines and targets and, helicopter parenting the staff, that it actually had a negative effect. And we've completely changed our approach there. We set really next to no deadlines for our staff. We have we have basically 2 calls every morning, one at 10 a.m. For our member engagement team, and one at 10:30 a.m. for our entire staff. And we use those to talk about priorities, which in our industry, especially with our company, they can change on a daily basis, sometimes multiple times in one day. And we just really try to lay out on that call the vision, like, hey, and, at the beginning of the week, I'll put together an email like, hey, these are the most important things that, we need to try to get accomplished this week. And people understand it. They're smart enough to adjust and prioritize their workflow appropriately. And what we found is that by not micromanaging people, productivity has gone way up. If it's, that email that comes in at 5 p.m. Eastern, that the beaten down, stressed out, micromanaged employee would not look at, that the happy, employee that feels empowered and appreciated wants to answer. So something that we've really embraced and to really good results. So something that just from experience, I would really stress. Sometimes it's a little bit different. If we're managing a cooperative of members, I realize some of you are managing pipelines of loans that have deadlines. So maybe not that cut and dry, but more the individual principle. So moving on to our next slide: communication and community, communicating effectively and appropriately. Mike, I know this is a linchpin of your management philosophy. Why don't you go through your management philosophy on communication and some of the things you're doing at VIP to make sure everybody's on the same page?
Our head of sales has this philosophy that people need to hear things 6 times before they really have it down. So we kind of bring that in, and we try to vary up the ways we communicate with people. Emails can be good, but if someone's busy, they may accidentally click the email and never end up reading it. Videos can be good, but if they get distracted halfway through by a kid with crayons in the wall, may never finish the video. So we try to mix it up with Zoom, short meetings, longer meetings, recorded video, phone calls, and trying to get even meetings with departments going and trying to have them reiterate messages that we send on company-wide. And especially when you get in an environment like this where so much can be changing. Just today, I imagine some of you on the call are dealing with Wells Fargo and their email and cash out refis. It's like, okay, something like that, we're going to send out 5 different ways to people to make sure it gets heard. And vary up even the timing. There's some people who will read things first thing in the morning, and there's some people who do much better if they get the email at 2 p.m.
Thanks, Mike. And then using technology to build community, something at TMC we embrace heavily as well. We use really 4 mediums, email being one of them. Some things have to be emailed. But we use 3 platforms. One of them we're on right now, Zoom, which we obviously use to connect visually. to host calls like this for our members. Just develops a stronger connection between your staff and our members and us. We use Slack, which is a like an instant messaging site, and we love it. We have like 10 different boards on our Slack network, and one is like TMC Connect, where we, drop notes about all these sessions that we're running. One for like TMC Summer Conference, TMC Benchmark, all the different major initiatives that our staff is working on. It's essentially a instant message board where you can, post pictures, upload files, type notes that helps lessen the email crush. Certain things that just don't have to be emailed. I don't think anybody that doesn't feel that email pressure when you just see them coming in and, trying to get on with your day or get projects done. Certain things like updates on a session like this, like, hey, Mike Metz is confirmed to help lead the session this afternoon, as opposed to emailing like the whole staff. Just drop a note in there, and people can check it without having the ping, 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 ping of emails coming in. So Zoom we use Slack, and then Monday.com and Trello are both project management websites. Should be noted, Slack is free. We have been using Slack for 4 years and have never paid Slack a penny. There are pay options. We've never needed one. Monday.
The thing about Slack, if I can add in on that one, is not only can Slack be used for individual communication between groups, but it's super easy to organize for subgroups. So you can have departmentals having meetings even in Slack, and then you can also post files to that. You can reference images, and then you can have even subgroups within them. So we have found, similar to Rich, a lot of people really dig into Slack for communication and just get away from the inbox for small things. You don't avoid an email with 3 words in it.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's like, we have some staff that's maybe not that involved with TMC Benchmark, so they won't have to check that board. Maybe they check it once every couple of days, where another employee might make sense to check it a couple times a day, as opposed to email that you're checking all the time. So the private messaging, great point by Mike. Like a good example, we did a session just before this. It was a general session on the benefits of membership in the Mortgage Collaborative for some new members and some prospects. And one of our employees, Angie Scarfino, we did a new format for that where we left everybody's mics on so people could talk, and shot me a quick note. Like, I like that format better. Something that didn't necessitate an email, but a note that she could drop in there. I just happened to read it right away. But yeah, so. And then Monday.com and Trello are 2 very popular, also with free versions, project management websites. So things that we're working on, if it's like the deck for this session, like on Monday.com, we have a board that is, hey, all the TMC Connect sessions. And then within that, we have a page that is dedicated to this work from home session, where when we make tweaks to this presentation, we can upload it to there. We can post updates in there. Both are really good at keeping everyone on the same page. So, and again, free. I think we just went to the pay version of Monday.com. I think it's like $50 a month or something, but gives us all kinds of additional features and functionality. So, moving on to our next slide. Monitoring and data benchmarking. Mike at VIP Mortgage. You guys are a big data company, have been way ahead of the curve in the mortgage industry on just the use of data in general. And you very effectively use it to help measure and monitor productivity. Why don't you tell the attendees a little bit about that?
Yeah, we are, as I mentioned earlier, pretty big nerds on our side. And what we have found is that if we measure and track things, we had a phrase for a while that what gets measured can be improved, and sharing that with the people. So not trying to keep it a secret, but taking that data, and we use in our side CRM. There's other solutions out there for people such as Motivity. I know that's a popular one, and we're TMC, a lot of members. we, in our case, just take that data from Encompass, make some snazzy looking reports, put it on our company intranet, and we're able to use that then and make it visible to everyone so everyone can see how they stack up. And then, on little monthly newsletters and sales calls, we'll highlight some of the people who've made huge gains, and not even just like top performers, but people who had a personal record for a month or people who've had a big improvement over a previous month. The other thing that we try to really do as we're looking at this data is, one, make sure you're balancing it. So if you're going to start watching numbers, try to do something for quality metrics or try to do some sort of quantitative thing as well. So we have our people actually rate other people on a per file basis. It's a much longer discussion we can get into, but try to grade how well people communicated. Were they friendly? Were they professional? Or were they kind of a jerk and slow to respond? So that you can have not just number junkies, but you can also reward your performers who care about their quality and their communication and customer service. And then just make it visible to everyone so people know where they stand and can work on what they need to.
Thanks, Mike. So yeah, real-time business intelligence and then data benchmarking would be kind of more like the after the fact. And for TMC members, we have a data benchmarking tool that measures lender performance, many operational metrics, decisions per underwriter per month, and like loans closed per processor, full-time processor on step, things like that, and 48 others that really help give like an after the fact overview of operational production. The one thing I will say for sure is, 6 weeks ago, a lot of our members were freaked out about having to move all their staffs remote overnight with next to no notice. I have yet to talk to one that has said anything other than it has worked well and our people have been more productive. Mike, have you heard the same thing, just your friends in the industry and your own personal experience?
Definitely. When our people are able to get more of that information and kind of help and guide and then especially like you were just mentioning with the benchmarks and get more of that information for how other people are performing, it just helps them really focusing effectively on improvement.
Absolutely. Our next slide, knowing your people. The one thing I will say, it's much more important to really know your people, not from a business sense, but from a personal sense when they work from home. As I mentioned, we have employees with 3 young kids. We have, I've got 2 kids that are older. We've got, Tom Galucci's got to drop his kid off at the babysitter every morning from, like 8 to 8:30. So we know, and I think it is important to understand. And, we tell people like, we don't get, there's certain times of the day, like we have calls from 10 to 11 a.m. Eastern and typically from 10 a.m. Eastern to 4 p.m. Eastern, like people have to be generally available most of the time. But outside of that, we give people flexibility to work when they feel most productive and work when it works best with their schedule. Mike, talk a little bit about the importance of that, just getting to know your staff personally and some of the things you guys do at VIP to kind of serve that master.
So this is one where even since we started, we're doing some of these webinar series on that productivity. We were pretty big on trying not to be micromanagers, let people live their lives. And Rich said earlier in the presentation, people are smart, let them be smart. If their kids, again, scrolling on the wall and cram, they should go stop that and they can pick up the email later. Try to have generalized times where everyone's overlapping, but we've allowed people to start getting more flexible in the hours. So there's some departments that'll find that, okay, if I can start an hour earlier, I'm going to get a big head start on a lot of funding packages before everyone else gets in. And there's some departments that, our disclosure desk find, okay, we'll just stagger to be an hour later than we were previously. If they're not worrying about the commute anymore, then really has no difference on their side. And now they're able to get a few more of those last minute crunch rush disclosures through. And we've tried to be even more flexible with people who, like he mentioned, if it's taking kids or picking them up or even just wanting to take 30 minutes and do stretching, yoga, or lifting at 2 p.m., make it up. And they end up happier and more productive. It's a golden combo.
That is a good combo. Um, like anything in life, communication, very important when managing people, even more important when managing remote people. Uh, to err on the side of over communication, but to do so in a way that is not oppressive and annoying. Using tools like Slack and Monday, where you can drop updates in there that people can check periodically as opposed to the email barrage. Or, I always try to like consolidate emails. If there's maybe something that's opposed to sending 3 emails, can I include everything in one email? And then, when appropriate, just picking up the phone. Mike, your rule of three that you always talk about the rule of three at VIP.
So we have a 3 email rule that if an email chain going back and forth is more than 3 emails long, at that point, it's best to just pick up the phone and talk to the person. Because either one, it's something that's complicated enough that a 2 minute conversation will take over 10 emails. Or two, on the flip side, it's something that's going to be a kind of an emotionally charged situation, and no one emails tone very well. That's one where you can get a lot more from the tone of the voice of the person and get something resolved.
Absolutely. And then acknowledging and overcoming the rabbit holes. And for everybody, they're a little bit different. Like for me, like I am a sports nut. I can't, on a day where I'm super bad, like the NFL draft is tonight. Like I had so much to do today. Like I refuse to let myself look at anything NFL draft today because that's my rabbit hole. I'll next thing you know, I'll be drooling on my desk and will have read 6 mock drafts. So for other people, it might be, their obsession with having an overly clean house or playing with their pets or their personal email. But acknowledging that stuff and, also and making it funny with the staff. And it's not to say they can't do that stuff during the day, but just acknowledging it. And we always, telling your employees, like, know yourself. So, and then recent studies have shown work from home employees are more productive. I think we have a couple links coming up here on one of these next slides to a couple studies that have been done that there they are that have indicated as such. So these are some links that some are links that members have sent to us. Some are links we've socialized with our team. The first one is there's a great daily email called the Morning Brew. We all get 8 billion email newsletters daily. Most of them you delete or unsubscribe. This is actually a good one that kind of goes through everything that's going on in the world in a very funny and light way. This link they put together is great. It's like, pages scrolling of just different at-home, work from home resources. If it's keys to productivity, productivity websites and apps, banana bread recipes and 18 million other things that are funny and useful. The second link is a great column that LinkedIn put together that with just a slew of different work from home resources for new work from home people. I know a lot of our members have forwarded that to their entire staffs. And column from HubSpot that we thought was really good. Of many columns out there, the best we found, just tips for being productive working from home. The aforementioned study, I think this one was done by the University of Stanford, obviously a prestigious university, that did, I think, a 2-year study on work from home employees over many different industries that made the conclusion work from home employees 20% more productive than those that work in the office. And then lastly, I guess germane to the current climate and the quote unquote summer that's coming up, tips on working from home if you also have kids there. And our next slide, or is that the last slide? That is the last slide. So these are our social media channels and our website. And again, we will email out a few things: a copy of this recording, a copy of this presentation, uh, a work from home policy that we've obviously stripped like any kind of company names out of, that you can copy, paste, and repurpose for your own firm. And also a link to a lot of the past presentations we've done. We've done a different presentation that we've run 3 or 4 times that's more targeted at first-time work from home employees. This one's a little bit more targeted at managers. So with that, if anybody has any questions or comments, this would be the time to do so. We're obviously more than welcome to follow up with Mike or I individually after the fact, while we wait to see if anything comes in. Mike, thank you once again for helping lead this session. Enjoy it as always.
Thanks again for having me. If anyone has any questions or anything like they said, feel free to reach out. We'll be glad to help.
And are you an Arizona Cardinals fan?
I'm afraid I am not.
You are not.
Please don't tell anybody.
Okay, they pick right ahead of the Browns. So I was trying to get, maybe some local knowledge at what might be going on with their pick at number 8.
Can't help you on that one.
Probably better off my rabbit hole. There we go. So, all right. Thank you very much, everyone. Really appreciate you taking some time out. We'll follow up electronically with the presentation, and have a great afternoon, everyone. Take care.